And Philadelphia has it.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to DSM pregame live streaming to here exclusively on DSM Media's YouTube channel. Guys, first and foremost, if you are new to the channel, make sure to check us out on Twitter at DSM_media. Hit that follow button. We greatly appreciate it. And while you're over on the Twitter page, make sure to check out the link tree in our bio. It will take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive throughout any of our shows here on DSM Media, if you want to catch any of our DSM pregame lives, they run exclusively through the YouTube channel. So make sure you check out that YouTube link, hit that subscribe button, like this video, whatever you got to do. But it's the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up on the screen here with your host. I'm one half of them, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my faithful co-host Scotty. You can find him as well at Scotty Drowned. Happy Mother's Day to all the mama bears out there. Pro tip from Brett. Get all that stuff out of the way. Go to brunch, make them breakfast, give the gifts, the flowers, get it all out of the way, and lock in at 3:30, man, before the Sixers end up ruining this day for us. But, Scotty, Sixers, Celtics, Game 7, biggest pregame show of the year, part dos. Let's try this again, my friend. How are you feeling on this Sunday morning? You are muted.
I literally was just saying I feel like Chris there because if we lose, I'm gonna cry, man. Like I'm gonna cry inside. Yeah. I'm not really gonna cry because we're here. It's do or die. It's now or never. Sixers got to step up to the plate ultimately. So if they lose, it's on them. But nonetheless, this is a huge game, biggest game in 20 years at least, maybe even 40 plus years since the last championship. As we discussed in Game 6, once again, nothing changed. Everything is still coming to that point of where this makes or breaks the process. It makes or breaks this franchise and what they've done with Joel Embiid over the last couple years with him ascending up to this stardom, bringing in James Harden, bringing in Daryl Morey, bringing in Doc Rivers. It all comes to fruition. It all comes to its pinnacle here today because the Sixers have to get a Game 7 W on the road in Boston. And there's a lot of different narratives that would have to be killed in order for them to do that. The James Harden Game 7 struggles, the Doc Rivers Game 7 struggles, the Joel Embiid second round struggles. All of it's lined up against them today. And then, of course, we had the Scott Foster and Eric Lewis bomb dropped on us first thing Mother's Day morning. So just in case you were wondering what the NBA had planned today, they put it out there for you. But it just, once again, you get these referees. Scott Foster, we know the deal with him. Harden 1-15 in games where Scott Foster referees. Sixers 1-10 this season when Scott Foster officiates. Boston Celtics 14-0. Eric Lewis family's a known Boston Celtics fan club. So interesting enough. But nonetheless, with all of that on the table, what that says even more is that the Sixers are going to have to show up. They're going to have to show up really big today to turn the tide. But let's get into it, my man.
Yeah, no, I think it was very interesting what you said to start. It's the biggest game in how long, and I've done it on the DSM page myself. I've said it to you on this show. It's the biggest game in 2 decades. When in reality, you are correct. It is more like the biggest game in 40 years. Because when you go back to that 0-1 season, yes, obviously they got to the Eastern Conference Finals and they were able to get to the NBA Finals. However, when you looked across the aisle at what was, coming over from the West, I can't recall what the vibes were like in the city. I don't know how many people actually believed they were going to beat Kobe and Shaq and those Los Angeles Lakers that year. This team has the more of an ability to win the whole thing if they are able to get through today. So that's why, to me, it is the biggest game in 40 years, realistically, for this club. Listen, man, I know you're down. I'm down too. We didn't do a show Friday morning. We had to relax and collect our thoughts and not just come on and rip the team. And then come on today and kind of contradict ourselves just because we were angry and upset with them on Friday morning. I understand the point of view and the take that the Sixers blew their shot. I get it. Up 3-2 at home. You don't want to go back to Boston. Completely agree. It's deflating as all hell. It's depressing. And especially in the manner in which they did it. But I will try to talk you into why the Sixers can get the job done today throughout the show. And I said this to you after game 3. We were together at your house. And they lost in a deflating manner. The first home game of the second round. And I said, give me till 6 p.m. on Sunday. Scotty, it's Sunday again.
Yeah.
Give me until 6 p.m. today, Scotty. Give me until 6 p.m. today and see if this team can once again prove and show us that they are different. I'm going to throw out these couple narratives to you, or these couple different ways you can look at it. Yes, if you think about it optically from the outside, that the Sixers were to win today, if they were to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, that means they will have won 3 out of 4 games in Boston this series. Doesn't seem very likely, does it? However, I will throw the other version at you, the other point of view at you. We got caught up in the moment because it was a closeout opportunity at home in South Philadelphia. But realistically, what would that have meant? Looking at it now in hindsight, that the Sixers would have beaten the Celtics 3 straight times in this series.
Yeah.
Does that seem realistic looking back on it? Not so much. So
Right.
Listen, I know it's tough to say, well, are they really going to win a third game in Boston? Why not? Why? Because they're not supposed to? Scotty, they weren't supposed to win half the games they've won this series.
Yeah.
They were 10.5 point underdogs in game 1. Won it outright. 7 or 8 point underdogs in game 5. Ran Boston off their own floor. This series has been as even and up and down for both sides of the table as it could possibly be. Both teams have a blowout in control win. Both teams have won 2 games on the road. Both teams have closed out 2 games late in the fourth quarter. This series is extremely even. And the last thing I will throw to you, because here's the other thing, right? The other negative point. Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum had 3 points at halftime, or 1 point at halftime. And Jason Tatum has been really bad. Well, you're not going to get that again. James Harden was 4 for 16. Joel Embiid had 26 points. The bench gave you 9. Tobias Harris gave you 2 in 42 minutes. I can make a very strong argument that you are not going to get that from the Sixers today.
Yeah.
I can make a strong argument that you're probably not getting 24 from Marcus Smart. So there's different, you can look at it from both sides, man. To me, it really, I know it's deflating, and am I uber confident today? No, I'm not. But I think it's a disservice to this team for us after the first disappointing loss of the postseason, I guess you could call it, to turn our backs and start to name call and degrade and put down this team when they've done nothing but show us time and time again throughout the season that they are different. They have one more opportunity to do so today.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said, and I think the trends that we look at.
I said a lot. I know, my bad. I got caught up.
It's all about narratives, and what as far as what we're looking at perspective wise. Because like I said, after game 6 in Philly, after we blew that game, you look at both sides of the podium here, the Celtics fans, Sixers fans, right? Sixers flipped as soon as game 6 ended, right? Series is over, Sixers are done, choke artists, right? Right after a huge game 5 win in Boston, nonetheless. How do you think the Celtics fans have been reacting throughout all of this as they watch the
They're
Celtics
still negative. I've seen people still negative on Boston today.
And what I would say, to your point, just about the Boston home court thing, the only thing that is a little annoying is like the Bill Russell stuff, and how I've seen my man NBA Slime talking about it on Twitter, and I get it. The NBA, they're going to do what they do. They have their own agendas separate from basketball. But at the end of the day, you have won 2 games in Boston. You've won more games in Boston than you've won in Philly. So I think to a certain extent, we can throw out home court advantage in this game in a game 7 where you have to show up no matter what. You can't be out there scared of the crowd. Like, that just can't happen, right? If that happens, you have 0 chance. So, like, I'm muting the Boston home court effect because it hasn't been very successful throughout this series in general. You have Jaylen Brown coming out talking about the fans and how they show up to the games and how they support them. So that's already got some tension in there between the Celtics and their own fans. So the home court advantage doesn't really bother me too much. The Sixers have played well there in Boston. And I would also say just another positive trend. You can look at Embiid's numbers on Sundays. Tobias Harris apparently has great numbers. Tobias Harris thing's funny, but Embiid in reality does have really good Sunday games.
Yeah.
Averages around 39 points on Sundays alone this season. I think he's played like 7 or 8 total games on Sundays, including last week when they got the dub. So the Sixers can win. They have as good a chance as the Boston Celtics. I told you coming into this show, the referees, that's what kind of drained my energy coming into the show. I woke up as I normally do on Sixers game day, and I was feeling optimistic as I always do, especially with this team and their will to win. But there's just something that's got to be said about the officiating, man. Like, I asked myself, two questions from game 6. One, can the Sixers choke harder than what they choked in that second half, to your point? And I don't think they can do that. I don't think it's possible. Like, James Harden, you look at him from game 5 to game 6, he took 8 more shots in that game, in game 6, than he took in game 5. Had 5 less points, right? Like, made the same amount of shots. He shot 4 for 8 in game 5, 4 for 16 in game 6. And had 5 less points in that game. So there's a lot of things. You mentioned Tobias Harris with 2 points in 42 minutes. Like, these are things that I don't think would happen 2 times in a row.
Scotty, they scored the least amount of points in a quarter in that fourth quarter than they had all season.
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, they scored 86 points. I mean, that's terrible, right? Can they choke harder than 86 points in a playoff game in a game 6 at home? No, but then on the other side, it's like, I asked myself after that game, can the referees impose their will more than what they did in that game? When you go back 3 minutes and review free throws and who's taking the free,
I've never witnessed that in my life, and I would like
to do that. Where can they stop? You know what I mean? If you can do that.
And I would love to ask,
as far as making adjustments, like
I would love to ask, if you're allowed to do that, how is there nothing in place to review and overturn the worst goaltending call in NBA history?
Yeah.
So you can go back 3+ minutes, take points off the board, make someone else shoot the free throws because you got the call wrong. So you're able to fix your you're able to fix your mistake. But you couldn't fix your mistake from the first half of the game when you gifted Boston 2 points.
And it was our challenge, and we have to go back and shoot free. Like, if we didn't challenge that play where Embiid blocks the shot and it goes off Robert Williams, right? Clearly goes off Robert Williams.
Right. They get that wrong to begin with.
If we don't challenge, when do they go back and review this and have Maxey shoot the free throws? When does that happen? That's what I'm saying. Like, and don't get me wrong, the Sixers, just because the refs will impose their will, just because there is an agenda by the NBA, it doesn't mean the Sixers can't win today. But it's really demoralizing when you constantly have to face like this extra feature against a team that is so good. It just takes me back to the Super Bowl, man. And it's like,
they don't need any help, man.
They don't need any help. Like, they don't need Scott Foster and Eric Lewis at home in Boston. But I think before we actually get into this game, I did want to get that out of the way. Like, while I feel that way about the referees, it just speaks even more to the game that the Sixers have to play today and what it will mean when they do win this game. So all that said, all that negativity that I had to get out of there early just speaks to how good the Sixers are going to have to show up today, how perfect they will have to play when they ultimately do win this game today, Dylan.
Yes, sir. All right. Oh, there you go. I heard that at the end. 2 quick things before we move on to how the Sixers can walk away with a win. Guys, if you are new to the channel, if you have not already, or if you want to again, hit that subscribe button on the DSM YouTube channel and drop your score prediction for today's Game 7 to be entered for a chance to win our jersey giveaway. The winner will be announced tomorrow morning. Hopefully the Sixers can come away with a win and you can sport your jersey if you are selected as the winner for the Eastern Conference Finals. And don't forget that we are proudly brought to you by our friends over at Manscaped. Use promo code DSM at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Again, that is promo code DSM for 20% off your total order and free shipping. Scotty, I want to start off the how. The how can they win this game with two adjustments, two takeaways I had from game 6 and wiping the slate clean with them today. And I want to get your thoughts on if you observe the same thing in game 6 and if you agree that they cannot do these same things today. So there's 2 points and they have to do with the stars because I think you and I on game 5's pregame show, we had a lot of discussion around the others, correct?
Yeah.
And then game 6 was all about the stars. Take us home. And I think in game 6, what you got was the stars relying too heavily on the others. Now, whether this is coaching, whether this is the star, like one star in James Harden making mistakes, whether it's one star in Joel Embiid not demanding, being more demanding, whatever it is, there's 2 things that stood out to me in this one, okay? A, when it went and got tough in the third quarter and early on in the fourth quarter, because we all know Joel Embiid didn't even touch the ball in the final 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But when it went and got tough, did you notice how when Boston would score and we'd be down 1 or 2 in the fourth quarter, we did what? We went immediately to the pick and roll.
Yeah.
And got Joel a rhythm shot. And he knocked it down. And we'd go up by 1 or 2. Okay? Now when Boston misses and we have a chance to extend a 1, 2, or 3 point lead, we go away from the pick and roll and let a role player take a corner shot. Makes no sense. The last thing I'll say to you, and this started from the opening moment, PJ Tucker was the first player to make a shot for the 76ers in this game, okay? Yes, the role players have to be willing. They have to be willing to shoot when they're open from the corner. You have to keep Boston honest. You have to make sure that Boston cannot just sag off of PJ Tucker and George Niang and D'Anthony Melton and double and triple team Joel and Harden in the painted area. I understand. But at a certain point, when it gets to PJ Tucker with 7 shots and James Harden with 4 at 1 or whatever the case was, you got the stars have to find a way to play around that. Now, PJ comes out and hits 2 threes to start the game and he's 2 for 2 and you want to feed him a little bit more and see if he's got a hot hand or D-Melt or whoever the case is today, that's fair. But when PJ Tucker starts 1 for 4 from the corner and you continue to force feed the ball to PJ Tucker, it's exactly what Boston wants. It's not to the same level because I think PJ has shot the ball a little bit better than Al Horford. But think about us, man. Yeah. When Al Horford gets the ball, what do we scream?
Yeah.
Shoot it, Al. That's what we want him to do. What do you think Boston wants you to do?
Yeah.
Not have it be Joel Embiid or James Harden or Tyrese Maxey taking a shot. When it's PJ Tucker from the corner, especially when he's shooting 25% at one point, they're loving it. They're feeding into it. So, to me, this one, the stars have to bring us home. It starts with Embiid and Harden. They utilize the pick and roll. I don't care about the 2 big lineup that they're going to throw out again. We'll get into that more. Those are my first 2 adjustments from last game. And then, obviously, I think the final one is clear, Scotty. Everybody has to make shots.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the historically bad fourth quarter, a season low, right? 13 points in a quarter in the fourth. They scored what? 3 points in the final 5:25 of this quarter, and 2 of which were by Jaden Springer in garbage time. Okay. And they started the game, what? 1 for 11 from the floor. Yeah. They were down 13-3 to start. So you started the game historically bad and you ended the game historically bad.
Yeah.
And,
exactly.
And essentially what Gint's saying here.
Yeah.
You can't dig that hole so incredibly early and have to fight back, especially on the road today. I know we said we're not too worried about Boston's crowd, but if you go down 16-6, 20-9,
it's going to get rowdy and demonstrative. I thought you made great points there. I'll just start at looking at this game. It's actually funny because this is some of the first time I'm actually looking at the numbers of this game, man, and it is disturbing. Like PJ Tucker takes more shots than Tobias Harris, but in less time. Right. Like I'm like PJ Tucker gets 8 shots, Tobias Harris gets 7 shots, but Tobias Harris played 42 minutes, PJ played 29 minutes. confused there why that's happening. Tobias, he looked like a mess in this game. Like,
Yep.
defense, he was great, right? Guarding Jason Tatum, that's why you have to keep him on the floor. But make a layup, my man. Like, some of those early layup opportunities that he has in this game can switch momentum, right? You go up there and you dunk it instead of
the alley-oop one.
The alley-oop. I mean, what the hell, man? Like
that essentially was transition back the other way for Boston.
Exactly.
How hard he threw this shit off the glass.
When you miss layups, that's going the other way fast. They're going the other way fast. They're on fast break. Same with the Harden going into the lane. If he doesn't get the call, those turnovers, they're going the opposite way immediately for buckets. But no, you hit the nail on the head as far as the other guys. We said the other guys would have to step up in game 5. We didn't say in game 6 closeout game.
The other guys said
it would be the stars.
The other guys have to be able to hold the Celtics take the shot and shoot reasonably well from the floor today. But in terms of D'Anthony Melton chucking 3 threes in the final 6 minutes of this game, that's what
I'm saying. So you get to the end of the game, you look at the difference between the Celtics and the Sixers closing this game out. Jason Tatum was 5 for 21 from the field in the game, right?
Kept chucking.
He's the one that's still shooting the shots at the end of the game. It's the same things that we said about the Celtics when they've lost games. They diverge to Marcus Smart at the end of the game. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum not getting the ball at the end of the games. Well, the Sixers did that. They went to D'Anthony Melton like 3 times in a row. It was miserable. We had the Embiid mid-range. At that point, it just felt like everything was going against us as well.
The one that rolled out?
The one that rolled out, man. And I think Harden had
I watched that, and I was like,
we're losing. Yeah, we're done. Yeah, it felt like that was the shot where that's supposed to be our layup, right?
I think we were down 3 or 5 at that point, and Boston was taking it back the other way. Yeah, that was the moment.
But to your point, because you hit the nail on the head as far as the late game and kind of how it went down, because the Sixers went up by 2 points. I think it was on that clear path foul, right? On the Maxey steal. They call the clear path foul. They have Embiid shoot the free throws. That's all fine. And I know we went back and reviewed that, had Maxey do all that. Nonetheless, they were still up 2, getting the ball back, and they didn't take advantage there. Then they come down. They got
like 3 stops.
Didn't take advantage there. You know what I mean? So you had 3 opportunities to go up by 2
that was it, bro.
in this game.
That was it.
And the pressure is on them, but instead we hover around the 2-point lead mark, and then boom, Jason Tatum 3 gets him the lead, feels confident, comes down, shoots another one, and it ends the game basically. Because once it's separated by 4, that's what a 2-possession game feels like, right? Once you make that separation of 2 possessions, it does feel over, especially when there's 2 minutes left. Like, the other team would then have to mess up uncharacteristically for you to win. And that's what we were trying to get for like the last 8 to 9 minutes from the Sixers, was get that security, get that next bucket to end this game. And they just couldn't do it. Nobody could hit the shot.
So crazy.
Maxey couldn't even hit him. The 3.
No.
I mean,
he airballed a 3 at the end.
Yeah, he airballed the 3.
I would say, what was so crazy about this fourth quarter?
Oh my God.
That closeout moment, they come all the way back in the third quarter. They take a 5-point lead at the end of the third quarter. They're tied. They're up 2. They're up 3. And it's like, I didn't even recognize in the moment how poor the offense was going, because they were staying up by right around 2, because Boston was sluggish too to start the fourth quarter.
The defense was playing well.
Was so focused. I'm like 7 minutes, 6 minutes up by 2, 5.5 minutes up by 3. And I'm like, come on. And then like Boston takes the lead, and I'm like, didn't we start this quarter with like 78 points? And I go back, I'm like, oh, we have 8 points in this quarter. Again, like just the way that the fourth quarter went, against in game 4. And I'll say this again, it has nothing to do with the referees, the Sixers poor shooting, but game 4, they did it, Scotty. And in game 6, they did it. Yeah. The Boston Celtics in both of those situations were in the bonus with 8 and 9 minutes left. And the Boston Celtics hadn't committed a foul yet on the other end of the floor. Stop. That is not, I'm not talking about, that's why the Sixers lost, has nothing to do with it.
No.
But stop. Boston should not be in the bonus with 9 minutes in the game left. That's ridiculous. But I will say this. I think everything that we talked about, it's more so we're focusing on game 6, but it's how the Sixers can adjust to game 7. And I think that's kind of where I started the show, trying to tell you, not trying to tell you, but like trying to tell everyone that, yes, we can focus on the negative side of things and say, well, Jason Tatum finally got into his rhythm at the end of the game. He's not going to play that bad. He's not going to shoot that bad again. Blah, blah, blah. We're doomed. Look at each and every single player we just talked about. Think about that fourth quarter we just talked about. Think about the 86 points. The 76ers will not play that bad. It's not happening today. Does that equal a win? I do not know yet. But for everybody, well, Tatum did this. Guess what? Marcus Smart isn't going to give him 24 points. Or Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon going to combine for 8 for 11 from deep again? If they do, good night. But that's like, there's a lot of things that Boston did well and the Sixers did historically bad in game 6 that you could argue should and can reverse today, outside of just the Jason Tatum narrative of he's going to kill us today and he hasn't gotten going. I want to get God. If you have,
I wanted to ask you, because I'm looking at the numbers here, and I mean you hit the nail on the head once again. Everything that could go wrong went wrong in game 6. You look at the 3-point battle. Celtics 15 for 35, Sixers 8 for 34.
Come on, bro. Oh, that's another thing. The best 3-point shooting team in the league this season.
You're not going to beat the Celtics like that. 23% from the 3-point line. They get out rebounded 50 to 38. So you weren't crashing the boards, you weren't getting the boards. They did win the turnover battle. That was the one thing I think that kept the Sixers in this game, was the fact that the Celtics were turning the ball over. They had 18 turnovers to Sixers 12. But to your point, this is what it took for the Celtics to go ahead and win that game 6. It was an all-time low performance for the 76ers. So to your point, they gotta be better than that. Like, that's what I mean when I ask the question, can you choke harder than they choked in game 6? No. Let me ask you this, though. The Robert Williams adjustment from Boston, right? They switched their starting lineup. We talked about it leading up to game 6. We didn't think that it would have this type of effect on the game. And maybe it wasn't just that, right? Yeah. My question to you is, how would you approach that today? I saw a lot of talk about maybe even taking PJ Tucker out of the starting lineup, putting in a Niang, putting in a Melton. Melton hasn't shot the ball well, so it's like, what is the purpose there? But I'm curious on your thoughts.
So 2 things real quick. You mentioned the Sixers winning the turnover battle. I thought the Sixers defense was phenomenal. I think that's what kept them in this ball game. So that's one thing, and hopefully defense can travel and they can play well on that side of the ball again today. Tobias Harris with only 2 points again was really good defensively. At least we can give him credit for that. Yeah. In terms of the Robert Williams adjustment, what do you do? Someone texted me literally like the day after the night that we lost. Like, do you sit PJ? And you noticed that when PJ started to miss from the corner, Doc immediately went to Niang, put him in that role because maybe Niang is the better 3-point shooter. I just don't see how you allow Boston to dictate that matchup so drastically in the final 2 games of a series that the lineup you rolled with all year long, the lineup that got you to this point, you go away from it. Like, I understand. Like, I can see if PJ comes out and they're beating us up on the glass, or PJ's missing his first 3 shots and blah, blah, blah. And, you want to make that adjustment. You make that quick adjustment, Doc. But it comes back to that chess match, Scotty. And we talk all the time. Go back to the Eagles, right? And we talk about defense and making those adjustments. And it's like, good teams dictate. Good teams impose what they do well and make the other team react. Just because they go too big doesn't mean we need to change everything we do. I would say that I didn't love the way the Sixers attacked Boston's 2 big lineup. I didn't. I think James Harden got into the painted area with not a plan. I thought James Harden didn't know if he was going to kick it to the corner for the open shooter or go up. And when that happens, he goes up soft. And that's why you saw the non-calls, the blocks, the turnovers going the other way, especially in the fourth quarter. I didn't like the way they attacked it. I thought the pick and roll was there with Joel. And when they wanted it, like I talked about before, it was there and he was efficient off of it. And then they'd go away from it. I don't think the Sixers attacked that 2 big lineup aggressively enough. I think you take the ball. Listen, I know he's a shot blocker. I know he's a big body. And you know what else I will say? Can I ask you this question? Did you notice that when James Harden got the switch on Al Horford or Robert Williams at the top of the key, he tried to dribble drive this game rather than going and trying to hit that step back that he was able to do over Al for, all series long. And what did you notice when he would do that? Turnover.
Yeah.
Every time. Block shot, missed shot every time.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, I didn't like the way he attacked it. And it starts there, right? It starts with the guy who has the ball in his hands 90% of the possession. So, yeah, I don't think it's a benching PJ Tucker thing. I don't know.
It was one of those situations with Harden last game. Now that we're talking about it, it was just one of those games where he looked like he didn't come into the game prepared to score. Like, he didn't look like a guy that came into this game knowing that he would have to put up 25 points and 10 assists in this game. Like, he came out, maybe he thought that Embiid was going to do it. Maybe he thought the other guys could do it for them. But Harden just didn't. And I'm not throwing shade at Harden. I think there's just some games he comes out in this facilitator mindset, and it doesn't do us well sometimes. And I think that's what you saw from early on. You get those push outs to PJ for early 3-point attempts, right? And I get it. You want to get him involved. You want to get him some shots up, get him in a rhythm. But
when he's 1 for 4,
it's not the shot that you want. But to your point, I think, with these guys, like, it's the indecisiveness. Like, that's the only reason that the Robert Williams rotation, the Robert Williams lineup worked, because they're indecisive when they get the ball in the corner. One, you have the ball handler being indecisive whether they want to get the ball out to them in the corner, because they know that's not the best shot that you can get for the offense. Understandable, but you got to be confident. You got to trust your teammates if you're going to trust them, right? But then once the ball gets out there, it's a bunch of indecisiveness. I saw it from Tobias Harris specifically. He's just, when he's in that mode, it's going to be a bad night for Tobias, because you can see it immediately. He's indecisive. He's fumbling the ball when he's trying to dribble. All different types of stuff.
Shriveled up.
Yeah, he's shriveled up. You can just tell when that's happening. PJ, he was letting it fly, but that's once again just let it fly.
Shriveled up.
You can't
shriveled up.
You can't catch the ball in the corner wide open and then pump fake or pass fake and then shoot it. No, at that point you don't shoot it anymore. Because
what sticks out to you when you say that? He did one, bro, where he didn't even look to pass and then gather his feet. He went with the hesitation, was about to put the ball on the floor, and then one dribble back to the corner, raise up, and I mean, it wasn't a competitive.
And his foot was on the line, and it wasn't going to be a 3. It was just a step back 2-pointer from PJ Tucker. It's not the shot you want.
No.
The one drive that stuck out to me on the Robert Williams closeout was the Tyrese Maxey drive in the corner, which, man, run the pick and roll to the side with Tyrese Maxey. My God. Like, also, why did we stop doing that in game 6, man? Like, I didn't understand that. We did that all in game 5.
I need one thing from Tyrese Maxey today. You have been really good the last 2 games, kid. Really good. I don't need to see the floater. I don't need to see the floater anymore. We talked to Krell about it, and Krell said if he would stop doing it. And it's like, man, when you get into that area, why can't you just gather, raise up, go up strong, and pull up with a jumper? Why do you have to go off of 1 foot, opposite hand, off balance, and try? Dude, he didn't make one. He didn't make a single floater last game. I don't even know if he made a floater in game 5 when he had 30 points. It's the one shot he needs to cut out, man. If he wants to shoot leaning to the left, go ahead. Stop with the off-balance 1 foot floater, bro. I don't need to see it anymore.
But what I was saying for Maxey, he is the one person that attacked the closeout from Robert Williams the right way. And you saw it later on when he got a dunk in the lane.
For whatever reason, the 22-year-old recognized the mismatch and the speed and his built head and his.
It has to be a confidence thing. It's about being decisive and knowing what you're doing right then and there. Too often, D'Anthony Melton pump fake, then try to dribble in a circle, then pass it back out. Can't happen, man. You have to drive to the rack, man. Where is it? I've asked this several times this season. Where is the finishing from D'Anthony Melton? We watched him on the Memphis Grizzlies go up and pipe it down on guys.
James Harden did it.
James Harden went up for the yam. That's when I really thought things were turning for us as well. But
and they did. They turned. The things turned right there.
Yeah, I mean, they did come back in this game. They did start playing better. There was a time in this game where I'm looking and I'm like, man, this is the Sixers' time. They're about to do it. and it didn't.
All right,
But
man. Listen, let's continue on before we get into standout stars, just kind of what more they need to do. We talked adjustments, right? I think that's a lot of what those keys were, where, cutting out the bad habits that you had from game 6, stop the indecisiveness. And then obviously I think, Captain Obvious here, you have to be able to make shots. Like the best 3-point shooting team percentage wise all year long, you shoot 23% from the floor from the 3-point line, right? Like Joel Embiid shot the ball efficiently. Started slow, but then shot it efficiently, but then only got 26 points and didn't touch the ball in the last 5 minutes. James Harden 4 for 16. We know all of that. Doc Rivers has to be better with his rotation. I thought Doc choked a little bit as well. This game had nothing to do with Doc Rivers. It comes down to the players. But what I will say, I thought Doc didn't allow. I know we want quick leashes when guys aren't playing well. I didn't understand Doc's rotation. He gave House that initial run coming off of game 5 and then immediately took him out. Niang hits 2 threes for us to give us the lead. I didn't think Niang was bad defensively in this one. I actually thought he played pretty good defense, staying in front of his guy. And then he goes to Melton in the final 5 minutes instead of Niang for those corner threes. And it's like, man, if that's Niang, maybe that's a different story, right? A different ending. But outside of that, I think today I want to go back to Gin's point here. And it's not just about throwing the first haymaker and knocking down shots and getting up early. It's about confidence level and energy and what you look like coming in the first 5 to 7 minutes of this game, Scotty. And I'll say this. We all, when we talk energy and we talk how you come out, we like to go back to leadership, right? And we like to go and we like to pin that on the coach. Does the coach have them ready to play? Will they show up for their coach today? We like to go back and look at PJ Tucker getting in Joel Embiid's ear and seeing the leader that he is and seeing him on the bench yelling at Paul Reed. And we love it. And that's all well and good. That doesn't matter today. Yeah. Because if Joel Embiid and James Harden, but I'm more focused in on the MVP today. If Joel Embiid does not come out aggressive and attacking and locked in from the first second of this game, that is a Joel Embiid problem and a Joel Embiid only problem. That is not on Doc Rivers for not having the MVP of the freaking league ready to go. It's not on PJ Tucker to be that veteran to get in his ear. Bro, if this isn't a moment, and I'm expecting Joel to be ready. I'm not like calling him out because I think he's going to be sluggish. But God damn it, man. If I see 2 seconds early in this game of sluggish Joel Embiid or lackadaisical Joel Embiid or turnover and jogging, I'm going to lose my mind because this is the biggest moment of your career. And you are a grown man now. Okay. You don't need coach to rile you up. You don't need PJ to get in your ear. You and James need to show up today from the first second of this ball game. And that's how I think you'll kind of know what Sixers team you're getting back to this point about what that energy level looks like and how they respond to that Boston crowd.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It's definitely my first key to victory here is start fast. You can't go down 16 points early, especially on the road like Game 6. You have to start fast. You have to come out, play confident, like you said. I think what I wanted to do here, just off your point, give a little bit of credit to the Boston Celtics. Give a little bit of credit to Joe Mazzulla making that switch going into that Game 6. Ultimately, what that did, even if it didn't make a holistic difference over the game overall throughout the late game per se, at least at the beginning, it had the Sixers shell shocked so much that they went down 16 early on their home court. So it may not even be that it's just the best lineup ever to throw at the Sixers. It was just different. Yep. And the Sixers didn't know what to do with it at the beginning of the game. They did. They gave it to PJ Tucker, and it just wasn't working, right? Then they bring Niang in, and things started moving around a little bit more efficiently. They were able to get back in the game. So to that point, I think you can avoid that today, right? You can avoid going down early because they throw the Robert Williams lineup out there. You've already seen it. You know what you have to do. You know the spots you have to get to in order to beat that team. So to your points, starting fast is going to be huge today. And you have to literally, what my mom just said, Happy Mother's Day, Mom, set the tone. That is what it is. You have to set the tone. That was perfect timing. Yep. You have to start fast. You have to be the enforcer today. Something that you said earlier, right? The great teams they impose their will, and that's what this
they want to do well.
They have to establish themselves as the dominant team, right? That was the thing in Game 6. The Celtics came in, they established their foot forward, right? They were the dominant team early. They had the confidence going. Jason Tatum was able to get out of his shooting slump in the fourth and win that game. That's what the Sixers have to do today. Even if the shots aren't falling early, you still have to do things. The other guys have to do the little things to stay in this game, to put the best foot forward. But to your point, can't go down 16 early, can't go down early at all. You have to come out here and impose your will, similar to what they did in Game 5, man. That's what we have to see today in order to get this W.
Go ahead.
I was just going to move to the next point. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm not excusing the Sixers if they get up early and blow a lead. I need my fellow Sixers fans to take a breath. Yeah. Because if you think that the Sixers are going to get up 10 early and they should just hold on and keep that lead, it's not how it's going to go. Boston was up 16 in Philly. They didn't stay up 16. Yeah. They weren't leading all fourth quarter. Like, it's a game of runs. It's a game 7. It's in Boston. Even if the Sixers throw the first punch and they go up 7, you can't sit here and be like, oh, I can't believe they gave up that lead. No, it's going to happen. Yeah. Okay?
Game of runs,
it is important to set that tone. Because, again, man, I go back to the beginning of the Phillies season, Scotty. How many games in a row were we down 3-0 in the first inning, down 4-1 in the second inning? You can't continuously play from behind. Yeah. So while you might get up 10 and that lead might dissipate, it is a lot different than playing from behind 10 early on the road. Be the tone setters today, dude.
Have to. My next point, it goes along with that, man, and it's just hitting shots. Right? Like, guys, like, we've talked about it this entire show, right? Like, just not able to hit shots. Shoot 23% from the three-point line. Shoot 36% from the field. Guys have to hit shots. It starts with the stars, right? Embiid, like you said, this has to be a dominant performance, but also efficient, right?
Absolutely.
It can't be a Tatum Game 6 performance from Embiid today. We need more than that, right? I know we talked about how Tatum closed that game. We can't afford that type of performance from Harden or Embiid today. A 5 for 21 showing, not a chance.
And I'll also
we need them to be efficient. They got to hit shots, man, and that goes to the other guys as well.
Yeah, obviously. I want to throw this efficiency point back at you because, again, points at the end of the game when you check a box score, that they all equal the same. They all matter the same, elite, whatever the case is. And I'm not saying this because I'm acting like Joel Embiid has been the clutchest player in the NBA this season. James Harden has 2 of the clutchest shots I've ever seen in a Sixers uniform this series. I'm not like coming at them for not doing it in the past. What I'm saying is timing matters today, because if this game is going to be the dogfight and the war that I think it is, just because Joel has, I'm just saying hypothetically, if Joel is 36 mid of the fourth but Tatum only has 22, Joel's kicked Tatum's ass today. But guess what? If it's a 2-point game with 3 minutes left, and Tatum starts banging threes and Joel's missing the pull-up, I'm not saying that's going to happen. There's no, I'm not trying to, start a problem. I'm just saying timing will matter today if it's that kind of dogfight. So he can have the 40-point day. I need them to be efficient down the line as well, which they weren't in Game 6.
Let me ask you this. There's been a lot of talk about this, and as I was talking through my point, because I do think they have to be efficient today. I think as a team, they have to be efficient today, but I'm going to backtrack a little bit about the stars. They don't have to be so efficient today. They need to be better than what they were, right? Embiid could be around the same, just more volume in his shots, I would say. Yeah. Harden has to be more efficient. He has to be better. I would say
they have to take us home, bro.
These guys got to be more efficient, but the efficiency that I'm speaking on really goes to D-Mel, PJ.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you.
1 or 2 threes. Like, if you're D-Mel today shooting, just go 1 for 2 from the 3-point line today. 2 for 3, or 2 for 4, whatever the case may be. Be efficient in that sense. How do you feel about this, though? I've seen a lot of talk about it. Harden and Embiid just emptying the clip today. I kind of feel that. Like, go out with your stars.
They have to. Yes,
they have to.
Scotty, at the end of the day, will we criticize James Harden if he empties the clip but shoots terribly tonight? Yeah, we're going to criticize him tomorrow. Will we criticize Embiid for coming up short if he shoots poorly today? Yeah, but you can ultimately live with that as a Sixers fan, knowing you're going down with the ship. You went down with your two stars emptying the clip. I can't live with the fact that James Harden and Joel Embiid are deferring to DeAnthony Melton from the corner with 2.5 minutes left.
I can't live with that.
I can't live with that in a loss. Now, granted, hey, listen, it's Monday morning quarterbacking, right? Because if DeAnthony Melton hits that 3 and the Sixers win the game,
everything's good.
We're going to be thanking DeAnthony Melton for coming up big. But when you think about a role player missing a big shot compared to a star missing a big shot, you can live with the fact that it was Joel Embiid taking those shots down the line. They didn't fall. In the worst of moments, they didn't fall. People are going to talk about, the choke job, whatever. That's fine. Maybe it's warranted. We'll see how it plays out. Yeah. But you can ultimately live with that. Whereas, man, if Melton's chucking threes and, I don't even know. And they're trying to get something to Paul Reed with 8 minutes left, and he's taking a layup instead of, Nah, I'm with you 100%. You need to allow those two to run the show today. Sprinkle in your Maxey offense. Tobias needs to be willing to shoot the ball.
Yeah.
But it comes down to those two guys emptying everything today.
I agree, man. And to your point about timeliness earlier, the answers. I think that's a huge thing in this.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like you said, there's going to be big moments where you have to have an answer. You have to answer what Boston
just picture it in front of their crowd. You can picture
it. Yeah. The thing that has blown me, the thing that blew me in that Sixers game, and mind you, give or take, because like you said, it's Monday morning quarterbacking. Like, if Maxey hits that 3 and doesn't airball it at the end of the game. But to my point, you look at this is great. I'm glad I thought of this because I thought of it when I was watching the Lakers the other night, because exactly how the Lakers played is exactly what the Sixers need to do in crunch time. Anthony Davis gets his ass on the post, and if we need a bucket, he goes into the paint, he gets fouled, he gets a bucket in the lane. Even LeBron was operating out of the post in that Game 6 closeout game.
It's a great point. It's a great point because
it's the answer. That's your layup. That is what you have to do.
We're not trying to be like, I'm not one of those old timers.
It's not like that.
It's not just that. And Joel Embiid is Joel Embiid. He's so dynamic because he could play at all three levels of the floor. Right. Yeah. We're talking that moment. We're talking 1 point game. I need a bucket. Your ass better go to the pick and roll, or you better find a way to get him in space in the intermediate to the post. I'm not all game. Get on the post. No. He can play at all 3 levels. It's what makes the offense dynamic. In that moment, if I need a bucket, guess where I want Joel? In that area, not getting the ball at the top of the key, breaking someone down off the dribble. I want to go to KT's point here because the fill the gaps part is basically that efficiency part we're talking about. That's it. Harden and Joel need to lead. The others need to fill the gaps. That means when you're open, I need you to shoot 40+%. I need you to shoot 50% from the floor, whatever it is. Niang, if you're going to take 6 threes, I need 3 of them to go in today, bro. Melton, if you're taking 4, I need 2 of them to go in today.
Yeah.
And
AC has the great points all over here, man. Like, Joel has to take over. That's what we talk about with moments, answering the call. Like, and it does have to be Joel today. I think if Harden comes out, he's hot like he was in game 1 and game 4, I think it was, where he got hot, had 42. If he gets hot like that, then so be it. You'll ride Harden to the finish. But if it doesn't, you know who has to answer that call.
Or there's an area where both are going. I mean, that happened in game 4. They combined for almost.
That's ideal. That's ideal. This right here too, man. Tobias Harris, now or never. Once again, like, either way, we may be looking at the final moments as Tobias Harris as a Sixer.
I
mean, at least go out on the right foot, man.
It depends what this journey looks like at the end of the road, right? Like, if this ends today, Tobias Harris is gone.
Whatever you get,
if
man.
The Sixers can win today, even if it has nothing to do with Tobias Harris, but they ultimately go on this finals kind of run, Tobias might not be on it. They go to the finals run, but listen, it's
Where's
just
the sharpshooter at.
Again, you do have to give him credit for all those people that want to kill him. And why was he on the floor? He was on the floor
for defense.
Because why do you think Jason Tatum has had these shooting? Tobias Harris has been great defensively. He made a couple plays in the fourth quarter where I think twice he came down when Tatum or Brown had the ball down low, stripped it, went to Tobias was great defensively. I don't know how you do this. And by the way, Scotty, it was a dunk. It was a dunk. That was it. That's all he gave you. A freaking dunk. Missed
Game
layup.
5, though, he has a double-double.
Hesitate.
16 and 11.
Oh, but I will say, for the fact that we are heading back to Boston, it gives you some hope that he was able to do it in the reverse.
In Boston.
Like the fact that he didn't give you 16-11 at home and scored 2 points in Boston and shriveled up on the road where they're at today, that gives me some hope because it's like, okay, I know that he's able to show up on the road before. Will he or not is a different story.
Yeah.
Rio, my man.
Showed up in game 1, man. I'm just looking back on this series for Tobias, and showed up in game 1, had 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shot efficiently. That's what we need. Maybe not even 18, just the 16 from game 2, game 5. Like, we're not asking for much, man. But
so let me ask you this, right? Because we have discussed the fact that Joel Embiid is the motor today, right? Of the 2 stars, he's option 1. We get all that. He's the MVP. We've talked about Tobias Harris, God forbid, cannot give you 2 points. Tyrese Maxey, we've gotten on this series. Can you make the argument for me that James Harden is the most important player today, though? Because think about the 3 losses and think about the 3 wins. And it's kind of that middle ground of the ceiling versus floor for Harden, Scotty.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I guess in games 2 and 3, it was more magnified how bad he was because the Sixers were losing the whole game compared to this one. They had the lead most of the fourth quarter and second half of the third quarter. So, Scotty, 4 for 16 is atrocious.
Yeah.
How many do you have? I don't know if you have the numbers in front of you, how many turnovers he had. It felt like he had a ton. It felt like he was forcing to try to get calls.
5 turnovers, which is
5
a lot
turnovers.
for him. Yeah, that is a lot.
How many assists?
9 assists.
That ratio is nowhere near good enough.
Yeah.
On top of 4 for
not
16
even,
shooting, bro. So can you I think you can make the argument that he's the most important player. And again, it goes back. Shout out to Austin Crowell when we did this interview with him during the Net series. If you get anything like bad Harden, I think you're doomed. But if you get middle ground or above Harden, you will be in this game till the very end.
Yeah, to your point, and maybe it's time to get into it, but Harden is my player of the game today. Like, while we understand that Joel needs to have that MVP type of performance, that has to happen anyways just to have a chance. Like, that's not, Joel shows up, has 40 and 10, that the Sixers are winning. No, that just means the Sixers are in the game.
Yeah.
The next step is James Harden, and then on to the other guys, right? After Harden, but it starts with him. He's got to at least be decisive and confident today. And I will say, with saying that Harden is the most important player in this game, as you mentioned, game 1, he has 45. Game 4, he has 42. Game 5, he has kind of the middle ground game, right? Yeah. Where doesn't shoot the ball he doesn't shoot the ball too much at all. Not too many turnovers. He's still facilitating, running the offense. Tyrese Maxey was able to get off in that game. He's got to come out and be decisive today. I talked about Scott Foster and Eric Lewis. We know Harden's history with Scott Foster specifically. You can't come out today like you did in game 6 and try to get the whistles. I get it. I do agree.
It's frustrating as hell to see Marcus Smart get a kind whistle, but one of the greatest scorers ever not get a whistle. As a fan, it's deflating, but you can't. It's this. You can't go grifting for fouls today. You can't try to seek that contact, and when you don't get it, look at the ref and not get back on defense because you're frustrated. It was too much of it in game 6, man.
That's what I'm saying with Harden today. You can't get that type of performance out of him. You can't have that type of mindset because
he almost checked out.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get the calls. Don't even plan. Don't even think that you're going to get it when you're going to the rack. And to my point there, to bring it to a head here.
It's this right here.
Mid-range. No, it's the mid-range, man. You see Harden when he's operating at full capacity, I guess you could say, for James Harden. When he's playing at that top level, it's when he gets involved in the mid-range game early. He holds the defense accountable with the mid-range. Then that opens everything up for Embiid. Then once he gets in a rhythm, he can take it back to the 3-point line, start hitting some threes. Then now everybody has to close out harder. Now you can get that quick first step to the rack. It has to be the mid-range today. No driving into the rack with 3 guys there. And yes, don't get me wrong. They're coming down across his arms. Like, it is a foul.
I'm with you.
No doubt a foul. But we can't rely on it.
I mean, my God, dude, we talked about his IQ before. After you seeing or not seeing a call after the first 2 or 3 tries, cut that shit out.
Yeah, stop doing it.
And then in his interview, in his post-game presser, he's talking about, the refs had a conversation with him at halftime and admitted that it doesn't matter what they admitted. They didn't give you the calls in the second half either, dude. So you are too smart to know. Oh, it's hilarious, bro.
Like, yeah, we missed some calls on you, but we're gonna make some even worse ones in the second half.
Right.
Like, just so you know.
But listen, man, you're going with Harden, and I think it's a great pick because, like I said, you can definitely make the argument that he's the most important player in terms of floor, ceiling. Where can you get him middle ground? Because if he's that bad with how much he has the ball in his hands, that's what makes it so much more worse. It's so noticeable because he affects so many more areas of the game outside of just his own shooting percentages. I got to go back to go ahead.
I got an X factor for you before you get into your player of the game. Just another player, Tobias Harris, man. You talk about the way you can win this game, the way you can win a game 7 in Boston on the road. Get 3 threes out of Tobias Harris today. Come out letting it fly from the 3-point line. Be confident in your game.
What's wrong?
That's the type of game that can shift the game, right?
What's wrong with 15 and 6 from Tobias Harris on efficient shooting?
Crashing the boards.
As a fourth option. What's wrong with that?
Come on.
Nothing.
What you got though, man?
I got to go back to the MVP, bro.
Yeah.
This is going to sound funny because it's like we're getting to the end of the season and God forbid this is the last time we get to see him play. He finally wins the MVP. I'm not trying to crush the MVP. Last game was the first time in a long time. Well, I mean, granted, you had game 3 when he first came back, but whatever. Or game 2 when he came back, excuse me. This was the first time it didn't feel like Joel Embiid was the best player on the floor. He was very good defensively. Very good. We saw his impact. We saw the blocks. Tatum is petrified to go to the rack right now.
Yeah.
He is felt defensively right now. He ultimately didn't shoot as bad as his start would say. I mean, God, he started like 1 for 5, 1 for 6. He finished pretty efficiently. It wasn't Joel Embiid you needed. That's not enough to take you home tonight. That's not enough to put this team on your back. I know it's on James Harden, and hell, it could be on the coach to give him the ball. When you are the best player in the league, you demand the ball in that situation. And guess what? If James ain't giving it to you for 2-3 possessions when you're demanding it, I don't give a damn. Call a timeout yourself. Sit down, look at your head coach and say, get him to give me the ball or sit him down. Joel Embiid needs to demand the rock today. Joel Embiid needs to be better than 26 points. I know it's crazy that we live in a world where like 30 is an average night for Joel Embiid, but it is at this point. And we've seen how this offense can look when others are off and he's not his dominating self. It runs through the big fella today. And the whole team came up short, and the others shot the ball poorly, and Harden was bad, and Tobias gave you 2 points. Joel Embiid offensively was not good enough. He turned the ball over a couple times in this game where I was just scratching my head like, dude, like I know his teammates have to yell for, like if someone's coming from behind when he gets the ball up here and Smart comes behind and plucks it, like people need to be aware. I don't want to say he needs to feel it. He needs to be smarter and stronger with the ball, man. So Joel Embiid, to me, has to take us home today, bro. Show me how you and why you are the MVP of the NBA and take us back to Philly because I want to not only be in the Eastern Conference Finals, I want to host the effing Eastern Conference Finals, which you are 48 minutes away from doing so. It starts and ends with 21 today, Scotty. And that's how I feel. Maybe it's unfair. Maybe he needs to demand the ball and he needs to empty the clip, like you said.
Yeah, I agree, man. I completely agree with you. I think we stated two different players, but it's all the same thing, right? James
What do they
Harden
have in
doesn't
common?
work. James
They're
Harden doesn't
stars.
work without Embiid playing at that
Yep.
that level that you're speaking of.
Oh,
So
and by the way, yes, exactly.
neither of it equals a W without the other.
Run the pick and roll. Run the pick and roll. Run it
Run
with
it to the
Maxey.
ground.
Run it to Maxey's side. Run it with Harden and Embiid. Run the pick and roll. Scotty, God damn it.
I was just looking at I went back, tried to look at last postseason, just looking at the good Embiid games, right? And I went back to the game 6 against Toronto where he had his face broken and he had 33 points in this game. They ended up blowing the Toronto Raptors out in Toronto. I know that's not going to happen today. They're not going to blow the Celtics out by any means, but a 12 for 18 night from the field, right? More than 18 shots today, I would say. But
he probably got to the line a decent amount of time.
12 for 18 from the field. Yeah, went to the line 10 times, hit 9 free throws, shot 90% from the line, 67% from the field, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Active, right? Like active.
Right.
So that's the Joel we need, but even to a higher extent today. Got the fire alarm going off in here.
Oh, I thought that was up in my house. I was like, oh.
No, that's my house.
Go make sure that your house is okay.
No, my mom's here, so she's probably just burning something, I assume. But no, it's a huge game. We talked about this, all show. Can we get that shut off or no? I'm sorry.
I can't hear it too much.
Okay. I
can hear it like faintly in the distance,
playing in the show in everybody's ears. But nonetheless, this we talked about it all game. This is the moment, right? There was a lot of talk in the comments earlier about the process. When did it end? When did it start? When did it finish? When did it fail? At the end of the day, regardless of how you feel about the process, whether you want to call it the process, whether you want to call it the Embiid era, whatever you want to call it, the Doc Rivers era, you want to call it the Philly James Harden era, right? Whatever you want to call it comes to fruition today. This is the moment where you make it count. Game 6 was that moment. The moment just got extended, right? It got extended to Sunday. You made us wait all the way till Sunday for this moment, for you guys to hit this pinnacle that we want to feel. And I'll be completely honest with you all here today. Like, as much as, I want the Sixers to win an NBA title and I want to see Joel raise the trophy and get the finals MVP and have it come to that type of pinnacle, what it would mean to get out of the second round today against the Boston Celtics,
Scotty,
it almost feels like more. It feels like
franchise
we win the championship. I hate to feel like this because it's loser energy in a sense.
No,
but it feels like we would win the championship if we beat the Boston Celtics today. That's how big this moment is for us. At least from my perspective, it feels like.
No, I hear you.
Like, I do think we would go on to the Eastern Conference Finals, have home court advantage against Miami Heat, and we would be favored. We should go on to the finals. We lose that series, hypothetically, it would be a failure.
Cross that bridge when you get there.
That bridge. But right now, this feels like everything, man. It feels like everything. And I hope the Sixers feel that because they need to. They need to feel that pressure in order to play above themselves in a sense, right? Play out of their minds, play the best basketball they've ever played. There has to be pressure. They have to feel that today, man. It's all coming to a point here. And this game means the world to me. At the end of the day, that's my conclusion, man.
It's franchise altering, bro.
It is.
If they lose today, there is massive turnover coming. It's the bottom line. And I know there's a lot of talk on Sports Talk Radio, and do I think Joel Embiid's going to request a trade? No, I don't, but he can't be happy, right? And once again, here we are. How do we build another team around Joel? Do we need a new head coach? Is the GM even safe? Is James leaving? Do you trade Tobias? Maxey's not ready to be the number 2 to Joel on a championship team. It's franchise altering to just strictly get past this hump and get to the Eastern Conference Finals where, yes, if they ultimately got there and were favored and had home court against the Heat and lost and to Jimmy Butler, in 2 weeks, we're going to have a very different conversation. But right now, it is the biggest moment in the last 4 decades for this organization. Today is everything. It is everything for Joel Embiid. It is everything for Doc Rivers. It is everything for James Harden. It's everything for you and me and for everyone listening right now. Dude, I can't explain to you how nervous I've been the last 2 days. I'm being serious. Maybe this is unhealthy. I've gone to bed thinking about the game and getting chills for a second, because it's I don't want it to end. I want to so desperately get past this hump and get to the Eastern Conference Finals to just be in that moment, be in that spotlight, and be in the Final Four and host the Eastern Conference Finals, man, and had the best player on the floor in this series. It would mean everything. Casey, there's a lot of people that are hesitant to pick the Sixers today because it would mean winning 3 out of 4 in Boston. I'm going to go back to the MVP of the league for a second. I'm going to tell you that improbable doesn't mean impossible, Scotty. And to Brett's point, why? The Boston Bruins had the most historic NHL season of all time and blew a 3-1 lead against the Florida Panthers, who are now in the Eastern Conference Finals, beat them in overtime at TD Garden. The Sixers have already shown you that they can win in Boston. I want to wrap it up before we get into predictions with this, man. This team has one more shot. It's like the Eminem intro, right? One opportunity, right? They have one last opportunity to continue to prove that they are different. If they lose this game, no matter the fashion they lose it, if Embiid gives you 52 when you lose, if you get blown out, whatever happens, this season will be a failure. Giannis, take notes. It will be a failure to me.
Yeah.
There will be massive turnover. And at the end of the day, no matter for how many months we try to believe that they were different, it will ultimately be different team, same ending.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the case, Scotty.
Yeah.
I want to feel vindicated in having this team's back since December and telling everyone why they're different. So I'll start here. The 76ers are going to prove why they are different today. The 76ers, they're not losing this game. I have too much belief and faith in our 2 stars to carry us to a victory today. I love the other guys have to hit shots. I love the fact that what Casey said about filling the gaps with the other guys, but it starts and ends with 21, and it starts and ends with Uno, and they need to bring us home today, and I think they do. I think that PJ Tucker was built for this team. I think that while DeAnthony Melton was a major letdown in Game 6, I think DeAnthony Melton was built for this team. I think that James Harden and Joel Embiid were built to play together. And I think that the 76ers will win today and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals and not ruin Mother's Day for the entire Delaware County and South Jersey area and Philadelphia. And I won't pick against them, man. That leash that we talked about after Game 3, how they had one more opportunity to extend that leash and show why they're different. They did that. And if you think because they choked, which they did, on one opportunity, that I'm just going to change my mind and switch up on them, that's not going to happen. I'm going to go down with the ship today. The 76ers will win.
Yeah, it's funny, man. The word choke has been used so loosely, and I've almost been using it routinely throughout the playoffs just to be funny, because I think people see one game, and I think we're so in the moment that we will go from calling Joel Embiid the best player in the world to where, after Game 6, you had Philly fans calling him a choke artist. Like, if he's choking, then so is Jason Tatum, so is Jaylen Brown, so is everybody else in the league. Does Steph and Clay choke? You know what I mean? Like, these are the things that we're talking about here.
If they lose today, you can argue that they choked for sure. You drop a 3-2 series lead, like you could argue that, but
you could argue that they choked. I mean, you could argue that the Celtics choked themselves into a 3-2 deficit, right? Like, this is what I mean. It's the word choke is just used so loosely.
When in reality, it's the up and downs of a 7-game series.
The up and downs of a 7-game series between two great teams. You've seen it all series. To your point about D-Melt bouncing back today, PJ bounced back, Tobias bounced back. These guys have played well all season for the majority of the season. I'd say they're not going to have a game like they had in Game 6 here in Game 7 on the road. Nonetheless, where I'm at with this game, Dylan, the Sixers have to win because they have to. Like, there's no other options, right? Like, you look at this game and it's building up for this great story because you have the Sixers returning to Boston. You have all the failures of Doc. You have all the failures of Harden, of Embiid in the second round, right? You have the referees showing up today, Scott Foster and Eric Lewis. The NBA doesn't want you in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? That's even more reason, backs against the wall, to go out here and shit in everybody's face. And to my last point here today, when I say that the Sixers have to win it because they have to. Like, Harden and Embiid have to get this W today because their legacy relies on it, whether we like it, whether anybody else likes it or not. My perception of Embiid and Harden relies on this game today, whether they win this or not, whether they play good, great, or not today. There's so much on the line. We talked about Tobias Harris. They lose this game, his last game in Philadelphia, his last game as a piece on a championship contender, right? Because the road after this for Tobias Harris, it isn't another max contract or another key piece on a winning team. He's going to a bottom feeder, Charlotte Hornets type of stuff for Tobias Harris after this. So this is his moment. Tyrese Maxey, he's on the brink of an extension, right? He wants the big extension in his 4th year. He's a star. He averages over 20 points in his 3rd season. A lot riding on this game. D-Melt needs an extension. PJ, are you going to fulfill your contract? James Harden, you ready to go back to Houston and compete for nothing? Joel Embiid, where do we go from here if this isn't it? There's so much on the line today, which is exactly why the Sixers have to and will win this game. My final point, just to bring up the other side, the other perspective, you talk about the Bruins, you talk about the Boston fan base. They don't deserve this. They don't deserve a win today. That's the biggest thing here. The basketball gods, the sports gods of the world, of the entire universe, are against the Boston Celtics. You have to be. They don't deserve this again. They have had so much success in their lifetimes as fans of the Red Sox, the Bruins, the Patriots, the Celtics. These teams have been successful. Karma has to come back around at some point and reward us, the guys that have to sit on the sidelines and watch every single postseason, watch Boston fans, guys that are growing up, they're 20 years old and they've seen 8 championships for their city, right? They grew up just champions. Like, we didn't get to experience that. And we deserve that feeling, man. We deserve that feeling of at least getting to the Eastern Conference Final. If we fall to Jimmy Butler, fuck it. Like, it's Jimmy Butler at least. Not to the Celtics, not to Jason Tatum, not to this Celtics team, not to this fan base, not to that community. We have to win today for the basketball world, for the universe, for the entire sports community. The Philadelphia 76ers have to go out here, backs against the wall, and beat the Boston Celtics Game 7 in Boston. They have to set the universe straight, to balance everything out. As Thanos once said, we have to create balance. That is what the Sixers have to do today. Bring balance back to the NBA and get the Eastern Conference
Talk
Finals.
about it.
Let's go. We need a dub.
I will say 2 things before we wrap the show up. I will say, A, it reminds you of oh my God, why am I drawing a blank on the name of it? Oh, it reminds you of The Last Dance, right, with Michael, when they talk, because think about all the years into the league when he didn't make the postseason or was made the postseason, but was a first round exit or a second round exit. And what he had to get over that hump. That was who? The Detroit Pistons, right? Or was it the Pistons or the Celtics then? At that point in time, it might have been this. I forget whoever it was, whoever he couldn't get past at that time. I think it was Boston, honestly. I think it was the mid to end of Larry and McHale and all that.
McHale and Larry Bird, yeah.
And it's obviously now it's even more ironic that it sticks with Boston, but it's like it reminds you of Joel and the Sixers.
Yeah.
Boston just seems to consistently be that team that knocks us out in the second round. Yeah. They swept us in the first round, the bubble. They consistently seem to be that hurdle that is the second round for Joel Embiid, and it's like today he gets it done. And I want to end it by saying this. You in your closing statements basically used the word have to and having a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I think one thing we didn't want to admit because we wanted them to come out with that killer focus and in front of our home crowd, the Sixers did not match the Boston Celtics desperation in Game 6. Yeah. We talked about that in Game 2 when we got blown out in Boston because Boston was desperate. Right? In Game 2, they didn't want to go back. They could not go back to Philly 0-2. They were desperate. Sixers didn't match that desperation. Game 6, think about this, right? We wanted to believe that this is the moment on your home floor. Bury them. And, the Sixers should have that mentality. But Boston had to win this game.
Yeah.
We didn't match that. Now both teams have to win this game.
Yep.
And now it's where your stars show up. That's what Joel Embiid will do. The Pistons, Brett saying, all right, bad boy Pistons. That's who it was, Isaiah, and the fellas. But guys, the longest DSM pregame live is coming to a close right now. The biggest Sixers DSM pregame live. I said this to you the other day, man. We have done a Super Bowl pregame show. We have done World Series pregame shows within the same calendar year. And the last two Sixers pregame lives have felt different because it's that emotion and it's something you haven't seen before. I saw a Sixers Super Bowl, an Eagles Super Bowl a couple years ago. I've witnessed a Phillies World Series. I've witnessed the 4A. I've witnessed the playoff runs. I have never witnessed an Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah. And you just want to get there so badly. Let's see if they can do so in just about 4 hours' time. The only Game 7 being played. Guys, that does it for this edition of DSM Pregame Live. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button on the DSM YouTube channel and drop your score predictions right now with us on this show for a chance to be entered in our raffle. Winner will be announced tomorrow morning, hopefully celebrating a Sixers Eastern Conference Finals appearance. And we'll get you that jersey if you are selected as soon as possible so you can sport that during the rest of this playoff run. Subscribe, drop your score prediction below, and also don't forget that DSM Media is proudly brought to you by our friends over at Manscaped. Use promo code DSM at checkout on manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. Again, that is promo code DSM, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. For myself, for Scotty, have a great rest of your Mother's Day and enjoy the game. Go Sixers.
Go Sixers. Happy Mother's Day.
And Philadelphia has it.